Hey guys, a friend and I recently started playing on CubeCraft Skyblock on Bedrock edition of Minecraft, and one of the things I wanted to do was create a little video on some tips that we found as we were playing. Some of these tips are not necessarily easy to find as you are searching the forums or maybe looking at other videos, and some of them are actually a little bit different than normal Minecraft functionality that you might be used to playing on other Skyblock servers. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through 11 tips of things that either you should be aware of in CubeCraft Skyblock for Bedrock Edition, or tips that really help you as you are trying to build out your island. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so if you are new to CubeCraft Skyblock, one of the things that's a little bit different, at least for me when I first started here, than other Skyblock servers that I've played on, is the fact that it's very quest-driven, and there's actually a sense of progression as you build your islands. A lot of times on Skyblock, you're just trying to build the most OP farms you can to sell as much as you can and make as much money as possible, which is somewhat the case here, but the quests actually help drive your ability to unlock new things. So when you first spawn in, you're going to see this little guy on your island, a villager, that says it's a shop, but it also actually contains your quest menu. If you right click on him, there will be a quests icon. Similarly, you will have a little Skyblock menu in your toolbar at all times, and you can just right click that and it brings up the same quests menu. When you are looking at quests, there's one important distinction, and this is really where the first tip comes into play, which is do the main quests to progress and unlock further things for your islands. Side quests can be helpful too, but they're not necessarily required. So if you click on a quest, it'll give you a description of what it is ultimately asking you to do. But if it's a side quest, one of the things you can tell when you're looking at it is it'll actually say side quest. And so there are things you can get from these that can be useful and helpful, but they're not actually required to continue on in your progression. Alright, so as you begin to progress in the game, you will actually unlock different islands, which in this particular Skyblock are all themed based on different biomes that exist within the game, and every time you unlock a new island, you will get access to a couple of new things. So when you think about tip number 2, keep in mind that every time you unlock a new island, there's going to be typically new spawners and new generators that will become available once you unlock that island. So in this case, I am standing on the Jungle Island, which I believe is the 3rd island that you can unlock in the game. And so once you do, you'll be able to go down into the core of the island. This has all been mined out at this point, obviously, but there are a number of cave spider spawners in here. There's some more coal generators. There are some lapis generators as well. So as you begin to unlock other islands, you will get access to bigger and better things in the game. So now it's time to talk about tip number 3, which might be a little bit controversial with a couple people, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyways, and that is that plants are a good source of money in the early game, but in my opinion fall off from a monetary perspective pretty quickly. What I mean by that is in the early game, obviously the only thing you have to make money off of in general is crops, so I think beetroot is what you start with. And then once you get potatoes are going to be a main money maker for a while. And then you really kind of take another jump once you unlock the Jungle Island and can harvest and plant the cocoa beans. This one actually was one of our main sources of income for a while, or one of the primary ones, where this isn't really the biggest cocoa bean farm by any means, but every harvest of that is about 20,000 coins, which in the early game is actually quite a bit. Once you get past that, though, it really starts to fall off, in my opinion. Again, we're not all the way to the late game, so maybe that picks back up with some of the other crops like sugarcane and carrots. But once you get to the point where you have hoppers and can buy a bunch of spawners, like that's just really the quickest way, and pigs are certainly one of the best items to to use to get money with. Melons are also not bad, but again, my playstyle is not one where I like to just create a giant farm and run around punching crops for 30 minutes. I'd like to play for a bit, maybe even AFK for a little bit, and actually make money while I'm doing it. So crops certainly make you money, but in the long run, I think they fall off a little bit. As you begin to progress throughout the Skyblock experience here, there will be a number of quests that can take quite a while if you are not prepared. One of those is once you get to the Nether or close to the Nether, there are a couple of quests involving creating golden apples. Earlier on in the game, there's actually a side quest to get 50 apples from trees. And while it might seem like kind of a pain, those apples in that case actually become quite useful later on as you continue to progress on into the game. So one of the things you got to keep in mind here, and this is really where tip number 4 comes into play, is keep your apples, keep some of the items you get that are generally a bit more annoying to get, like apples, because if you go and sell them, which you can sell them for money, you can't necessarily buy them back, and then you have to go through the whole process of creating trees and cutting them down again to try to get apples. Alright, so as you begin to progress throughout the Skyblock experience here, you will eventually unlock hoppers. I can't remember if it is the 4th or 5th island off the top of my head, but ultimately you do get iron and iron generators, and then you can start making lots of hoppers. But one of the things people don't necessarily think about is you can actually make pretty decent money with effectively killing mobs, even if you don't have hoppers readily available. So one of the things that my friend and I did on this island that actually helped get us quite a bit of money early game without the hassle of having to plant potatoes and some of the other plants, cocoa beans for example, that generate a little bit more money, is actually just buying a number of cow spawners, putting them up here in the air. I think this was actually one of the original platforms that we had for them, and after that you can effectively just have them die on the ground next to you and just stand there and collect the drops. So something I did, I had another monitor screen up, I was able just to stand there, let the drops hit the ground, ultimately I might pick them up, and I could just sell them right there for easy money without having to do a whole lot. So tip number 5, you can make good money with spawners even before you have hoppers. So while we're on the topic of spawners, it is important to know and understand that spawners in this particular Skyblock work a little bit differently than you might be used to in vanilla Minecraft or maybe even other servers. So in vanilla Minecraft you have to be within a certain number of blocks of the spawner, and I believe that also is true from a y-axis perspective, not just x or z. And in CubeCraft Skyblock, you can actually be within, I think the range is about 30 blocks of the spawners, and it doesn't matter how far up in the air they might be, they will still work. So in this case, you can see here we've got a bunch of pig spawners. As long as we are within 30 blocks of these from an X or a Z perspective, they will work, and pigs will spawn and ultimately fall to their deaths and give us a lot of drops. You can also see here that the spawners are spawning different level pigs. So as you progress through islands, you might actually be, or you will be finding spawners within the islands, and typically these spawners are not level 1, meaning they'll produce either animals or mobs that have higher amounts of health. So like there's a level 20 pig right there as an example. And that's fine. You just might need to build your platforms that they fall from a little bit higher in the ground to make, or a little bit higher in the air to make sure that they actually can hit the ground and die. So you'll see there's a couple of those, but then as you buy them, you can get level 1 spawners, which spawn pigs with a lot less health in this case. Also, you can see the spawners are really just looking for a couple of blocks for mobs to spawn on. They don't care about light levels. None of that stuff really matters. So you can see here I just have a pretty dense cluster of spawners, and they all work just fine. Lastly, You do have the ability to upgrade spawners in the game, so you can once a spawner is placed, you can right-click on it. There'll be a little UI for how to upgrade that spawner. Unless you're doing it for a quest, which I think there are a few quests that ask you to upgrade spawners to a certain level to complete them, I would suggest not doing that. All it does is make the pigs or the mobs spawn with more health and make them harder to kill. The only exception to this is if you are wanting to build a bit more of a XP focused grinder. The higher level the mobs are and the higher health they have, they actually do drop more XP than a typical mob. So you can kill them and they'll drop more XP. Lastly, these spawners, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's I think between 3 and 5 mobs they are able to spawn, and then once they spawn those 3 or 5 mobs, they will not spawn another one until the existing mobs are dead. So if you have a spawner and it spawns those 5 mobs, let's say, until you kill those mobs, it won't spawn anymore. As soon as you kill them, it'll start cycling through again and spawning those mobs. It won't spawn 3 every time. It has a chance to spawn between, I believe, 1 and 3 mobs each time. So that's spawners. They're really the main way to make money in the game. You can see here I've got pigs, and over there there's some zombies, and there's some pigmen up there that are falling very, very far because they're really high-level spawners to their deaths. Alright, next tip is focused on tools in the game. So, just like regular Minecraft, you can craft tools through the materials you get and ultimately enchant them, or just use them in general. One of the things that I didn't really catch on to when I first started playing that I wish I had known and understood was don't let your tools break. Repair them even if they're not enchanted early game. If you really, I probably wouldn't do this for the wooden tools, but once you start getting stone and certainly iron tools, it's a little bit easier to repair them in the game. So when you first start off, before you get iron, you're going to actually have to go to the Skyblock hub to do it. So once you get into the hub, there will be a little repair station over here. You can talk to this guy here by right-clicking on him, and then you can select the tool that you want to repair based on what's in your inventory. You can select that, and then it'll tell you effectively what you need to repair it, and it's basically just whatever the tool's made of is what you need to repair it. So if you have iron, if you have iron tools, you'll need iron to repair them. Cobblestone tools, cobblestone repairs them. The really cool thing that I wish I had understood and known when I first started playing here was when it comes to repairing tools, you don't actually need to have experience to repair them. So if I go here, actually I'll go back to my home island and grab a little bit of iron so we can look at the UI and see how it works. So the other kind of quick tip here is if you don't want to talk to the dude and find the tool, you can just put the tool you want to repair in your hand right here, click on the anvil, right click, and then you'll be given a series of options whether you want to repair it with a little bit of material or if you want to fully repair the tool. So once you do that, it'll take your iron ingots in this case, so it'll say, hey, it's going to be 13 ingots and your renewal durability will be this. Go ahead and click repair, and then as you can see here, I have a brand new pickaxe. Now the other cool part about this is once you do get access to iron and are able to have a good amount of it and you have some excess, you can actually create an anvil on your island that functions the exact same way as the anvil in the hub. So you don't have to go to the hub every time you want to repair a tool, which in the earlier games is a little bit annoying, but it still works. Alright, tip number 8. So within this Skyblock server, there are certainly situations where you do need to either plant plants or plant saplings and grow trees to harvest logs in order to further progress through some of the quest chains. And tip number 8 really is that plants grow while you are offline. So what's really handy about that is some of the Some of the trees, for example, as you begin to progress, take quite a long time. I'm not to the end yet, but I believe that some of the later stage trees take like 4 days to grow. These acacia trees take a little over a 24-hour period. I think it's about 28, 29 hours to grow. But what's great is you can plant them and then head offline, and then, at some point during the night or whenever, they will actually grow, and they'll all be fully grown the next time you log in. So don't forget to plant this stuff before you take off, and it'll be ready to go by the time you get back. Okay, time for tip number 9. So, as you can see here, we are down at the bottom of where our mob grinder is, where in this particular one, pigmen and zombies fall to their unfortunate deaths on hoppers, and we collect their sweet loot. If we are ever in a position where we need to enchant some new tools, or just need some XP for one reason or another, there's a simple way you can always turn these things into XP grinders. So if I go ahead and just take some water, put it down here, what's going to happen is all of those zombies will fall down there onto... there's another water stream at the end that they fall into, and if we come down here, yes, there's dirt blocks everywhere. I know we're not going for aesthetics here. All of these hostile mobs will effectively fall down into a 1x1 box. Just let everybody finish spawning. And you can see here, I can just go ahead and take all these guys and kill them. So I know there's probably more efficient ways to do this where, we could make them all take a little bit of fall damage before they come down, just so don't have to smack them quite as many times with the sword, but this works just as well. So what I'm going to do, actually, I should not have done that. Let me make sure they can't get in here. So definitely make sure that everybody respawns and falls back into where they need to go before turning this thing off. Otherwise, you're going to be trapped in here with a bunch of mobs that are alive, and they will likely kill you. And that is it for tip number 9. So tip number 10 is focused on some enchant mechanics that are a little bit different on this server than normal Minecraft, and one of those being the fortune enchantment. So you can see here I've got my iron pick. It's got fortune level 3. Normal Minecraft, this obviously works on lapis, redstone, diamonds, coal, things like that, but it doesn't work on other ore blocks like iron and gold. Here on CubeCraft it actually does, so let's see if we can get a visual representation of that. So there you go, I just mined 1 iron block here, and I actually received 2 iron ore as a result. So something you might not think of at first glance. I think this happened a couple times before I realized that I was getting more ore than what I actually had sitting here, and then I realized that it actually worked. So tip number 10, fortune works on blocks other than the usuals, and this also actually works on cobblestone as well, the cobblestone generator. So if you're trying to get cobblestone, use your fortune pick because you will get more. Alright, last tip of this episode. There are certainly more to come that I can share if people are interested, but for now we're capping it at 11. This one is specific for those of you who are playing on a co-op world. Something that's different than at least my own experience in lots of different Minecraft servers from a multiplayer perspective is that Skyblock coins are not shareable. So there's no command that I can use to pay someone else coins on my island to go buy stuff, things like that. So not really a game breaker by any means, but it is important to understand that if you guys are trying to buy something and you're saving up your coins, it's less advantageous per se for 2 people to go down and, in this case, sell all the cooked pork chops for lots of money, because you're effectively splitting that money amongst the 2 of you, and you can't combine it afterwards. So if you're saving up for something, typically it's best to have one person be the individual responsible for selling things, and that way the money is all going in one spot and you can actually take advantage of it. And that is it. Alright guys, well thanks so much for hanging out and watching all 11 tips if you made it this far. Definitely have more that we can share as we both continue to go on. I think we have 2 or 3 more islands left to unlock before we've reached the end game. At this point, we just started working on the Nether about a day or 2 ago. But if you found these helpful, definitely leave a comment, let me know. If you want to hear more or have other thoughts or questions, feel free to leave them below, and we might turn out some more videos. So thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.